Captain Daehyun stood before the massive observation window of the diplomatic vessel Horizon's Promise, watching as Axis Prime grew larger against the backdrop of space. The station was enormous, bigger than any human construction. Hundreds of alien ships moved around it like insects around a hive. Some had wings made of light. Others looked like living creatures swimming through the void. Daehyun felt his heart race with excitement and nervousness. This was it. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for decades. First contact had happened 20 years ago, but it took this long to arrange a meeting with the Galactic Concordat. The Concordat governed 47 different alien civilizations. They kept peace across thousands of star systems, and now finally they would consider letting humanity join them. Ambassador Minji walked up beside him. She looked calm, but Daehyun knew her well enough to see the tension in her shoulders. She carried a data tablet containing everything humanity wanted to share. Art, music, scientific discoveries, philosophy, and proof that humans could be valuable members of the galactic community. "Are you ready?" she asked. Daehyun nodded. "We've prepared for this for years. Everything will be fine." But he didn't truly believe his own words. Something felt wrong. The Concordat had been distant during all their preliminary communications. Cold even, not the warm welcome humanity expected. The Horizon's Promise docked with Axis Prime 2 hours later. The airlock opened with a hiss and Daehyun led the delegation into the station. The gravity felt slightly heavy. The air smelled like copper and something sweet he couldn't identify. Aliens moved through the corridors, ignoring the humans completely. A tall reptilian creature with silver scales walked past without even looking at them. A being made of floating crystals drifted by, humming with a sound that made Daehyun's teeth ache. Their escort was a 6-legged creature that spoke through a translation device. It said nothing beyond simple directions. No welcome, no curiosity, just cold efficiency. The council chamber was vast, 47 seats arranged in a circle, each designed for a different type of alien body. At the center was a platform where Minji would make humanity's presentation. Daehyun and the others sat in a small viewing area to the side. Minji walked to the platform. Her voice was steady and clear as she began to speak. She showed them human achievements. The first cities. The first flight, the discovery of antibiotics, the splitting of the atom. The first steps on Earth's moon. The colonies on Mars and Europa. She showed them human art, from ancient cave paintings to modern holographic sculptures. She played music from classical symphonies to contemporary fusion that blended cultures from across Earth. The aliens listened in silence. Some had faces Daehyun could read. Most did not. He tried to gauge their reactions but found nothing. Minji spoke for 3 hours. When she finished, she bowed respectfully and returned to her seat. Her hands were shaking slightly. The council deliberated for 3 full days. The human delegation stayed in cramped quarters on the station. They saw almost no one. Food was delivered by automated systems. Daehyun tried to reach out to other delegations, but doors literally closed in his face. On the 3rd day, they were summoned back to the council chamber. A massive reptilian being spoke first. Its scales were deep red and its eyes glowed with inner fire. The translation device rendered its words in flat, emotionless tones. "We have reviewed your species. We have analyzed your history. We have debated your request for membership." Daehyun held his breath. "The Galactic Concordat denies humanity's petition. You are deemed unsuitable for membership at this time." The words hit like physical blows. Minji stood up immediately. "May we know the reasons?" A crystalline being spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Your species is too volatile. Your history is marked by constant warfare. You develop weapons before wisdom. You have destroyed your own environment multiple times and barely recovered. You are dangerous." "But we've learned from our mistakes," Minji protested. "We've had global peace for 30 years now. We've reversed climate damage. We've united as one species." Another alien spoke, this one resembling a floating jellyfish with bioluminescent patterns. "Your unity is recent and fragile. You have only existed in space for a few generations. Other species in the Concordat have millennia of peaceful history. We cannot risk the stability we have built." The red-scaled reptilian leaned forward. "There is another concern. Your technological development is unnaturally rapid. You achieved interstellar flight in less than 300 years from your industrial revolution. Most species take thousands of years. This rapid advancement suggests dangerous instability. You create without fully understanding consequences. Daehyun felt anger building in his chest, but he forced it down. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Let us start as observers, not full members. The decision is final, the crystalline being said. Furthermore, your colonies in systems governed by concordant member states must be evacuated. You have 1 standard year to remove your populations from concordant space. The room spun. Daehyun couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're exiling us? We have 12 established colonies. Millions of people. Those systems belong to concordant members who have expressed concerns about human presence. The decision is final. The meeting ended. The humans were escorted back to their ship in silence. As the Horizon's promise undocked from Axis Prime, Daehyun stood at the observation window again. But this time he felt no excitement. Only cold rage. Hyunwoo, their head scientist, approached him with a data pad. I managed to access some of their public archives while we were on the station. I found something interesting. Daehyun looked at the screen. It showed classified concordant discussions about humanity. The words made everything clear. Humanity represents an existential threat to concordant dominance. Their adaptability and aggressive innovation could shift the balance of power within 3 generations. Recommendation: exclude them before they become too powerful to control. They don't fear that we're dangerous to peace, Hyunwoo said quietly. They fear we're dangerous to their power. Daehyun read through more of the documents. Discussion after discussion showed the same theme. The Concordant wasn't a peaceful alliance of equals. It was a power structure, controlled by the oldest and strongest civilizations. They kept newer species weak and dependent. And humanity, with its rapid advancement and refusal to accept limitations, threatened that entire system. Over the next weeks, the news got worse. The Helian Empire refused trade negotiations. The Kesh Federation closed its borders to human ships. Even the Reneth Collective, famous for their pacifism and acceptance, politely declined diplomatic relations. Humanity was alone, rejected by everyone, exiled from civilized space. But as Daehyun looked at the stars, a new thought formed in his mind. Maybe that wasn't the worst thing. Maybe humanity didn't need their approval. Maybe it was time to build something new, something better, something that would make them all regret their decision. The exile had begun, but so had something else, something the galaxy would soon learn to fear. Fleet Admiral Jiwon had commanded ships for 23 years, but she had never faced anything like this. 338 colony ships stretched across space in a convoy that took hours to pass a single point. 4.7 million people. Everything they owned and everything they'd built on 12 different worlds. All of it had to be moved because they weren't welcome anymore. The command center of the flagship Defiant Dawn buzzed with activity. Officers monitored every ship, every system, every potential problem. There were so many things that could go wrong with an operation this massive. Engine failures, medical emergencies, supply shortages, pirates, and worst of all, hostile aliens who wanted to make sure the humans left quickly. Jiwon stood at the main display, watching the real-time map of the convoy. 12 different groups, each evacuating from a different colony world. They would meet at Rally Point Echo, then proceed together to wherever they were going. Except nobody knew where that was yet. They just knew it had to be outside concordant space. Admiral, we're receiving reports from New Horizon, her communications officer said. Administrator Youngsu says the Kesh mercenaries are getting aggressive. They're demanding the evacuation happen faster. Jiwon's jaw tightened. New Horizon was humanity's largest agricultural colony. 800,000 people lived there. It would take weeks to evacuate properly. Tell Youngsu he has the timeline he needs. The mercenaries can wait. But 3 hours later, the situation got worse. A message came through from New Horizon, audio only, filled with static and the sound of explosions. This is Youngsu. The Kesh are firing on our evacuation ships. They say we're moving too slowly. They say if we don't leave within 48 hours, they'll start destroying ships on the ground. We have over 200 ships still being loaded. We need help. Jiwon made a decision that went against every regulation. Helm, break from the convoy. Best speed to New Horizon. Tactical, ready all weapons. Communications, get me Captain Jisoo. Jisoo was young, only 26, but she was the best pilot in the fleet. She commanded a squadron of 12 fast attack ships that were supposed to scout ahead of the convoy. Now Jiwon needed them for something else. Jisoo, I need you to buy time at New Horizon. The Kesh mercenaries are attacking evacuation ships. Keep them busy until I arrive with the Defiant Dawn." There was no hesitation in Jisu's voice. "Understood, Admiral. We're on our way." Jisu's squadron arrived at New Horizons 6 hours before the Defiant Dawn could get there. The scene was chaos. Kesh mercenary ships, angular and covered in weapons, were firing on slow-moving transport vessels full of civilians. 3 human ships were already destroyed, floating debris in orbit. "All ships, this is Jisu. Attack pattern Delta. Target their weapon systems only. We're not here to start a war, just to slow them down." Her squadron spread out and dove at the Kesh ships. They were outnumbered 3-1, but they were faster and more maneuverable. Jisu's targeting computer locked onto a Kesh cruiser. She fired a burst that took out its main gun, then rolled away from return fire. The Kesh ships turned their attention from the defenseless transports to the attacking fighters. That was exactly what Jisu wanted. Every second they fought her was another second for civilians to escape. One of her pilots, Dong Yun, wasn't fast enough. A Kesh plasma bolt caught his ship's engine. "I'm hit. Losing power. I'm going to have to eject." "Negative," Jisu said, making a split-second decision. She swung her ship around and positioned it between Dong Yun and the pursuing Kesh vessel. She fired everything she had. The Kesh ship's shields flared and collapsed. The ship veered away, trailing atmosphere. For 6 hours, Jisu's squadron danced through orbital space, harassing the Kesh, protecting the evacuation ships, and somehow surviving against superior numbers. 2 of her pilots died. 4 more had to eject when their ships were destroyed, but they held the line. When the Defiant Dawn finally arrived, Admiral Jiwan didn't waste time with warnings. Her heavy cruiser's weapons spoke for her. The Kesh mercenaries suddenly found themselves facing a real warship, not just light fighters. They retreated quickly, sending angry messages about human aggression. Jiwan didn't care. She sent a message to all Kesh channels. "You were hired to enforce an evacuation, not to murder civilians. The next ship that fires on an unarmed transport will be destroyed. Test me if you doubt my words." The Kesh didn't test her. The evacuation of New Horizon continued without further attacks, but the damage was done. 12,000 people had died in the initial attacks on the transports. 12,000 people who had done nothing wrong except be born human. In the medical bay of one of the evacuation ships, Dr. Sungmin worked without stopping. He had been awake for 36 hours, treating injured evacuees. Burns from plasma fire, radiation poisoning from damaged ship cores, broken bones from emergency escapes, and too many body bags. Sungmin had been a researcher before the exile, working on preserving genetic diversity. Now he was a field medic doing whatever was needed. Between patients, he worked on his original mission, collecting genetic samples from as many humans as possible, recording family histories, preserving seeds from every plant humans had cultivated, saving cultural data, music, books, everything that made humanity unique. "We might lose our homes," he had told his staff, "but we won't lose ourselves." 3 months into the exodus, all 12 convoy groups met at Rally Point Echo. The sight was overwhelming. Hundreds of ships hanging in space around a dead star. Everyone was there. Everyone was accounted for. But everyone was also lost. They had left their homes. Where would they go now? Captain Dae-hyun, who had led the failed diplomatic mission, was now in charge of finding a new home. He studied star charts in his ready room, looking for unclaimed space. Most of the galaxy was spoken for. The Concordat controlled the richest systems. Independent civilizations held the rest. There was almost nothing left. "There is one place," Hyunwoo said, pointing at a region on the map that was colored red, a warning color. "The Obsidian Expanse. It's unclaimed." Dae-hyun looked at the data. The Obsidian Expanse was huge, containing thousands of star systems. But there was a reason it was unclaimed. Spatial anomalies made navigation difficult. Sensor readings were unreliable. And there were rumors of ancient weapons left by a dead civilization. Weapons that killed anyone who came too close. "Every civilization avoids it," Hyunwoo continued. "The Concordat tried to survey it twice. Both expeditions disappeared. They declared it forbidden space." "Forbidden," Dae-hyun repeated. He looked out at the fleet of refugee ships, full of millions of people who had nowhere else to go. He thought about the Kesh attacks, about the 12,000 dead, about the Concordat's fear of human potential. A dangerous idea formed in his mind. "Send a message to Admiral Jiwan and Ambassador Minji. Tell them we're having a council meeting. We need to make a decision." 6 hours later, the human leadership gathered via hologram. Admirals, ambassadors, colony administrators, and scientists. Daehyun presented his idea. The Obsidian Expanse is dangerous, but it's also the only place they won't follow us. If we can survive there, if we can master whatever dangers exist, we'll have space to grow, space to become strong. They rejected us because they feared our potential. I say we proved their fear was justified. There was silence. Then Jisoo spoke up. She had become famous throughout the fleet for her defense of New Horizon. They killed 12,000 of us for the crime of leaving too slowly. They'll kill more if we stay weak. I vote we take the risk. One by one, the others agreed. It was almost unanimous. Only a few voices of caution remained, but they were drowned out by determination. Admiral Jiwon gave the order. The entire fleet turned toward the Obsidian Expanse, toward the one place in the galaxy that even the ancient civilizations feared, toward the unknown. As the first ships entered the Expanse, strange readings appeared on every sensor. Space itself seemed to twist. Stars appeared where they shouldn't be. But they kept going. They had no choice. The exile had taken everything from them. Now they would build something new in the darkness, something powerful, something that would make the galaxy remember humanity's name. 5 years had passed since humanity entered the Obsidian Expanse. 5 years of struggle, discovery, and transformation. The frightened refugees who had fled concordate space were gone. In their place stood something harder, something dangerous. Engineer Minho stood in the ruins of an ancient facility on a dead world humans had named Ghost Prime. The facility was enormous, buried kilometers beneath the surface. Whatever civilization built it had been gone for millions of years, but their technology remained. And it was far beyond anything the concordate possessed. Be careful with that power core, Minho called to his team. We still don't fully understand how it works. One wrong move and it could level this entire excavation site. His team moved with practiced precision. They had gotten good at this over the years. Find the ancient sites, carefully extract the technology, study it, reverse engineer it, and most importantly, weaponize it. The concordate had rejected humanity for being too aggressive and too innovative. Well, humanity had taken that criticism and turned it into survival. They learned faster than any species in known space. They adapted alien technology in ways the original builders never imagined, and they improved on it. The power core came free from its housing with a hum that made Minho's bones vibrate. It was the size of a small car but could power a city for 100 years, or power a weapon that could crack a planet. Humanity had found 37 of them so far. Load it onto the transport, Minho ordered. This one goes to Fortress Nova. They're building the new defense platforms. Fortress Nova was humanity's capital, built inside a massive asteroid field that provided natural protection against attack. But they hadn't relied on nature alone. The asteroids had been hollowed out and connected by pressurized tunnels. Defense platforms bristled with weapons that combined human innovation and ancient technology. Minefields of smart missiles that could think for themselves. Energy shields that bent space itself. In the intelligence center of Fortress Nova, Soo-young reviewed the latest reports from her agents. She had built an intelligence network that stretched across concordate space. Humans were everywhere, working as traders, technicians, miners, and merchants. The concordate barely noticed them. Individual humans weren't a threat. But each one was Soo-young's eyes and ears. She knew which concordate members were preparing for war with each other. She knew about the corruption in the Kesh Federation. She knew about the secret weapons programs the Velkar were developing. She knew everything, and she made sure the Dominion's leadership knew it too. The Terran Dominion. That's what they called themselves now. Not refugees. Not exiles. A Dominion. A power in their own right. Soo-young's assistant, Yoonji, brought her the morning intelligence summary. The Velkar are moving 3 fleets toward the border with the Renoth Collective. Analysis suggests they're planning an invasion within 6 months. Do the Renoth know? No. The concordate is too busy with internal politics to notice. Or maybe they just don't care. Soo-young made a note. Information was power, and she would decide when and how to use this knowledge. In a research facility on the edge of the expanse, scientist Hae-yoon made a breakthrough that would change everything. She had been studying the spatial anomalies that made the expanse so dangerous. Most species saw them as obstacles to avoid. Hae-yoon saw them as tools to exploit. I can create them artificially, she explained to Daehyun during a secure video call. The anomalies aren't random. They follow rules. Complex rules, but rules nonetheless. If we can generate them at will, we can use them tactically. Daehyun leaned forward, interested. He had changed in 5 years. His face was harder. His eyes were colder. The idealistic explorer was gone, replaced by a leader who understood that survival required strength. What kind of tactical applications? We could make it impossible for enemy ships to target us accurately. We could bend their sensor readings. We could even open temporary passages through space, moving our ships instantly across vast distances. The Concordat has nothing like this. Nobody does. How long until we can deploy it? Give me 2 years and unlimited resources. You have 1 year and whatever you need. Haeun smiled. She liked working under pressure. Commander Taijin paced the bridge of the warship Retribution. He commanded the First Dominion fleet, 50 ships of varying sizes, all equipped with the best technology humanity could produce. Today they were hunting pirates. A group of raiders had been attacking the small independent colonies that humanity traded with. The raiders thought they were safe because nobody policed the space around the expanse. They were wrong. Contact, his sensor officer reported. 6 ships matching the description of the raider fleet. They're attacking a mining station. Battle stations, Taijin ordered calmly. Approach Vector Delta 7. Target their engines first. I want prisoners for questioning. The Retribution and its escort ships appeared on the raiders' sensors only when it was too late. The pirates tried to run, but human ships were faster. They tried to fight, but human weapons were stronger. Within 20 minutes, all 6 pirate ships were disabled, their crews in custody. Taijin sent a message to the mining station they had been attacking. This is Commander Taijin of the Terran Dominion. The raiders have been neutralized. You're safe now. The response was filled with gratitude. Another small civilization that would remember human protection. Another potential ally in a hostile galaxy. Back at Fortress Nova, Ambassador Minji received visitors. They were representatives from the Kirith, an insectoid species that the Concordat had rejected for being too primitive. The Chirith were nervous, their translator devices buzzing with their clicking language. We have heard, the lead Chirith said, that humanity was also rejected. We have heard you are building something new. We wish to know if there is room for others, Minji smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had learned hard lessons about galactic politics. Tell me, what can your people offer the Dominion? We are excellent miners. We can work in environments that would kill most species. We have discovered several rich asteroid fields in unclaimed space. We would share these resources in exchange for protection and trade. Protection from whom? The Velkar have demanded we pay them tribute. When we refused, they destroyed one of our colony ships. 3,000 of our people died. Minji's expression didn't change, but inside she felt a familiar anger. The same anger she had felt when the Kesh attacked human evacuation ships. The galaxy's powerful civilizations thought they could do whatever they wanted to the weak. The Terran Dominion accepts your offer of alliance. We will defend your people as we defend our own. In return, we expect loyalty and cooperation. We will send military advisors and defense platforms to your systems. And if the Velkar come again, they will regret it. The Chirith's antennae quivered with relief and joy. They had found a protector, and humanity had found its first allies. Over the next 3 years, more came. The Vorith nomadic traders who had no homeworld. The Kalesh, a peaceful species tired of paying protection money to the Kesh Federation. Small civilizations rejected or threatened by the Concordat, all finding refuge with humanity. Daehyun addressed the Dominion Council in the Great Hall of Fortress Nova. Around him sat representatives from 7 different species. Not servants, not subjects, partners. The Concordat rejected us because they feared we would upset their precious balance of power, he said. They were right to fear, but not for the reasons they thought. We're not building an empire. We're building something better. A dominion where strength protects the weak. Where innovation is celebrated, not feared. Where any species can find a home if they're willing to work for the common good. The representatives nodded. They had all experienced the Concordat's arrogance and cruelty. They had all found something better with humanity. Engineer Minho entered the council chamber and whispered something to Daehyun. The leader's eyes widened slightly. It seems we have a situation, Daehyun announced. A Concordat survey ship has accidentally crossed into our territory. They're mapping systems near the Expanse border. Admiral Jisoo has intercepted them. What are your orders? Minji asked. Daehyun thought for a moment. This was a test. How would the Dominion respond to Concordat intrusion? With fear, with aggression, or with confidence? Bring them here, he said finally. Treat them well. Show them what we've built. Let them see that the species they exiled is no longer weak. And then send them home with a message. The Terran Dominion exist. We will not be ignored or threatened, and we remember everything. The Concordat was about to learn that exile had not destroyed humanity. It had forged them into something far more dangerous than the frightened species that begged for acceptance 5 years ago. Admiral Jisoo stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Nightfall, watching as her hunter-killer group surrounded the Concordat survey ship. 12 years had passed since the Exodus. 12 years since she had been a young pilot defending evacuation ships at New Horizon. Now she commanded a full battle group, and her name made pirates surrender without a fight. They're trying to run, her tactical officer reported. Disable their engines. Non-lethal shots only. The Concordat ship's drive went dark after 3 precise hits. It drifted helplessly as the Nightfall pulled alongside. This is Admiral Jisoo of the Terran Dominion. Your ship has violated our territorial space. Prepare to be boarded. Do not resist and you will not be harmed. The Concordat crew didn't resist. They were scientists and surveyors, not soldiers. They looked terrified as Dominion Marines secured their ship. Jisoo walked through their vessel with interest. It was well built but outdated. The technology was at least 20 years behind what the Dominion now used. She found the captain, a Luminari crystal being, in his ready room. I apologize for the intrusion, the Luminari said through his translator. We had no idea this space was claimed. Our charts show this region as uninhabited. Your charts are 12 years old, Jisoo replied. A lot has changed. You'll be taken to Fortress Nova. You and your crew will be treated as guests, not prisoners, but you will be questioned about Concordat fleet movements and military capabilities. The Luminari's crystal structure flickered with anxiety. The Concordat will not tolerate this. Capturing one of our ships is an act of war. Jisoo smiled coldly. Then perhaps you should have stayed out of our space. At Fortress Nova, Soo-young personally handled the interrogation. She didn't use torture or threats. She didn't need to. She simply asked questions and watched carefully. The Concordat crew were scientists, not trained spies. They answered honestly, wanting to cooperate so they could go home. Within 3 days, Soo-young knew everything. Concordat fleet positions, political tensions between member species, the locations of military shipyards, supply routes, everything. She brought her findings to Daehyun. The Concordat is weaker than they appear. The Velkar and the Kesh are barely speaking to each other. The Luminari want to reduce military spending. At least 8 member species are unhappy with the current leadership. The alliance is fracturing. Daehyun studied the data, and they still haven't acknowledged our existence officially? No, they're pretending we don't matter. But their internal communications tell a different story. They're worried about us. Very worried. Before Daehyun could respond, alarms blared throughout Fortress Nova. Commander Taijin appeared on the main screen, his face grim. We have multiple Velkar fleet elements crossing into Dominion space. Not scouts. Full battle groups. 23 capital ships supported by over 100 smaller vessels. They're heading toward our mining outposts in the Crimson sector. Daehyun stood immediately. Where are our forces? The 1st, 3rd, and 5th fleets are in position. We're outnumbered 2-1, but we have the home advantage. Rules of engagement? They've already opened fire on Outpost 7. 15 civilians dead. Taejin's voice was ice. The Velkar have made their intentions clear. Daehyun felt the old anger rise in his chest. The same anger from 12 years ago when the Concordat rejected humanity. The same anger from the Kesh attacks during the Exodus. When would the galaxy stop trying to push humans around? Destroy them, he said quietly. Show the Velkar what happens when they mistake patience for weakness. Taejin nodded. With pleasure. The Battle of Crimson Nebula began 3 hours later. The Velkar fleet moved in formation, confident in their numerical superiority. They had fought 100 battles and won most of them. They expected this to be another easy victory against an upstart species. They were catastrophically wrong. Commander Taejin positioned his 3 fleets inside the nebula itself, using the dense gas clouds to hide his exact numbers and positions. When the Velkar entered weapons range, he activated Haeun's new technology. Artificial spatial anomalies bloomed throughout the battlefield. The Velkar ships' sensors went haywire. Their targeting systems couldn't lock on to anything. Their communications were scrambled. They found themselves blind and deaf, stumbling through space while humans hunted them with perfect precision. Taejin's flagship, the Retribution, emerged from the nebula gas directly above a Velkar dreadnought. The massive enemy ship tried to turn its weapons upward, but it was too slow. The Retribution's main guns, powered by ancient technology that Minho had reverse-engineered, punched through the dreadnought's shields in one shot. The second shot split the ship in half. All across the battlefield, the same story repeated. Human ships appearing and disappearing like ghosts, Velkar vessels exploding or going dark. The anomalies made conventional battle tactics useless. The Velkar tried to retreat, but Taejin had anticipated that. He had positioned his Fifth Fleet behind them, cutting off escape routes. In 2 hours, the battle was over. 23 Velkar capital ships became debris. Thousands of Velkar warriors died. Only 3 ships escaped to carry news of the disaster back to their empire. Dominion casualties. 2 ships damaged. 0 ships destroyed. 43 personnel wounded. 7 dead. The news of the Battle of Crimson Nebula spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Terran Dominion, the exiled humans, had just destroyed a Velkar fleet 3 times their size with minimal losses. The species that the Concordat dismissed as too primitive and dangerous had just demonstrated military capabilities that rivaled the greatest powers. The Concordat Council held an emergency session. Their demands arrived at Fortress Nova within days, transmitted on all frequencies so everyone could hear. The Terran Dominion must immediately cease all military expansion. You must submit to Concordat oversight and inspection of your military facilities. You must explain how you acquired technology that exceeds known scientific principles. Failure to comply will be considered a hostile act against the entire Concordat. Daehyun read the demands and laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had been pushed too far for too long. He composed a response and broadcast it on the same open frequencies. He wanted everyone to hear this. To the Galactic Concordat, 12 years ago we came to you in peace. We sought only to join the community of civilized species. You rejected us. You called us too volatile, too dangerous, too aggressive. You exiled us from your space and forced millions of our people to flee their homes. When we left, you attacked our evacuation ships. 12,000 of our people died because we weren't moving fast enough for your hired mercenaries. When we found a new home in the Obsidian Expanse, you ignored our existence. When we defended ourselves against pirates and raiders, you said nothing. But now that we have proven we are strong, you demand we submit to your authority? We refuse. The Terran Dominion is a sovereign power. We will not submit to inspection. We will not limit our growth. We will not accept oversight from those who cast us out. You had your chance to treat us as equals. You chose exile and contempt instead. You created us. You took a species that wanted only peace and friendship, and you taught us that strength is the only language the galaxy respects. Congratulations. We learned that lesson well. The Dominion will continue to expand. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will offer alliance to any species that seeks it. And we will defend our people and our territory with whatever force is necessary. You feared what we might become. Now witness what you created. The broadcast ended. Throughout Concordat space, billions of beings heard Daehyun's words. Some were frightened. Some were angry. But many, especially among the weaker species, felt something else. Hope. In the weeks following the broadcast, 17 independent star systems requested alliance with the Terran Dominion. They were small systems, poor systems, systems that had suffered under Concordat indifference or abuse. They saw in humanity a power that might actually protect them, rather than exploit them. Hyejin, now Daehyun's second-in-command and chief strategist, proposed a bold plan. We call it Operation Vanguard. We openly offer protection and trade to any civilization that requests it. We build a coalition of the rejected, the threatened, and the overlooked. We don't hide in the expanse, we expand. We become too large and too powerful to ignore or dismiss. Ambassador Minji added her support. We also make it clear that we remember everything. Every species that rejected us. Every nation that attacked us. Every slight and every betrayal. We don't seek revenge, but we never forget. That memory keeps us sharp. Daehyun approved the plan. Within 6 months, the Dominion's coalition grew to include 38 different species across 200 star systems. It wasn't the largest power in the galaxy. The Concordat still held that title. But it was growing fast, and every week brought news of another system joining the Dominion, or another concordate member expressing quiet discontent with the old order. The galaxy was changing, and humanity, the species that every civilization had exiled, was leading that change. 20 years had passed since the exile. Captain Daehyun was now simply Daehyun, leader of the Terran Dominion. His hair had gone gray. Lines marked his face from 2 decades of difficult decisions. But his eyes were still sharp, still watchful, still remembering every injustice that had brought humanity to this moment. He stood in the observation deck of Fortress Nova, looking out at the massive fleet assembled for the defense exercise, 300 warships, representing not just humanity but 17 different species. The Chirith contributed their mining expertise and tough fighter craft. The Vorith provided their unmatched sensor technology. The Kelesh built medical ships that could heal any species. Together, they had created something the galaxy had never seen before. A coalition built not on fear or conquest, but on mutual protection and shared purpose. Kangmin, the Dominion's chief diplomat, entered the observation deck. He was young, only in his 30s, but he had a gift for finding common ground between species that had nothing in common except rejection by the Concordat. The Free Alliance is now official, Kangmin reported. All 17 member species have signed the charter. That brings our total to 38 systems under full alliance and another 83 in trade agreements. We're now the second largest political entity in the galaxy. Second, Daehyun repeated. The Concordat is still larger. Yes, but barely. And the gap closes every month. 5 more Concordat members are considering defection. The Luminari in particular are very unhappy with current leadership. Daehyun remembered the Luminari. Their representative had been part of the council that rejected humanity 20 years ago. Their crystalline voices had called humans too volatile, too dangerous. The irony of them now seeking help from humanity was not lost on him. What do the Luminari want? Protection from the Velkar. After we destroyed their fleet at Crimson Nebula, the Velkar became more aggressive toward everyone else. They're demanding tribute from smaller Concordat members. The Luminari don't want to pay, but they don't have the military strength to refuse. Before Daehyun could respond, alarms sounded. Not attack alarms. Communication priority alarms. Something important was happening. Soo-young appeared on the main screen. We're receiving an emergency transmission from Concordat space. A secret message from a Luminari envoy. They're requesting immediate private talks with Dominion leadership. About what? They wouldn't say over open channels. But our sources indicate the Concordat is facing a crisis. A big one. The Luminari envoy arrived 3 days later on an unmarked ship. She was escorted to a secure meeting room in the deepest levels of Fortress Nova. Daehyun met her there, along with Minji, Jiwon, and Soo-young. The Luminari's name was Resonance of Dawn, though she asked to be called simply Dawn. Her crystalline body pulsed with nervous energy. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. "I come not with the approval of the Concordat Council, but with the desperate hope of my people." "Why would the Luminari seek help from humans?" Minji asked. 20 years ago, your people voted to exile us." Dawn's light dimmed with what might have been shame. "We did, and we were wrong. We feared your potential, your rapid growth, your refusal to accept limitations. We thought you would disrupt the order we had built. We were right about that part, at least." "Get to the point," Daehyun said. "There is a threat emerging from deep space. A fleet of unknown origin, vast beyond measure, moving toward Concordat territory. Our best scientists estimate they will arrive within 2 years. When the Concordat tried to make contact, the fleet destroyed our ships without warning. We are facing extinction and we are not prepared." Dawn pulled up holographic images. The ships were massive, organic-looking, covered in strange markings. There were thousands of them. The Velkar want to surrender immediately and pay whatever tribute the invaders demand. The Kesh want to abandon their outer colonies and retreat to fortress worlds. The Council is paralyzed by fear and politics. Meanwhile, this threat grows closer every day. "And you think humanity can help?" Soo-young asked. "You defeated a Velkar fleet 3 times your size. You reversed engineered technology from a dead civilization. You built a coalition from rejected species and made it powerful. You did what we thought impossible. If anyone can find a way to survive this threat, it's you." The room was silent. Daehyun looked at his advisors. Minji's face was unreadable. Jiwon looked thoughtful. Soo-young was already analyzing implications. What does the Luminary government officially offer in exchange for our help? Daehyun asked, full alliance. Technology sharing. A seat on the Concordat Council for Humanity and... Dawn hesitated. An official apology for the exile. Recognition that we were wrong. Daehyun felt something twist in his chest. An apology. Recognition. The things he had wanted so desperately 20 years ago. Now they felt hollow. Words couldn't bring back the 12,000 who died during the evacuation. Couldn't erase 20 years of struggle and loss. I need to discuss this with my council, he said finally. You'll have our answer within 3 days. The debate in the Dominion Council was fierce. Some wanted to let the Concordat face the threat alone, let them feel what it was like to be helpless and desperate. Others argued that the threat to the Concordat was a threat to everyone, including the Dominion. Admiral Jiwon made the argument that swayed Daehyun. We're not doing this for them. We're doing this for us. If this unknown fleet destroys the Concordat, they won't stop there. They'll come for us next. Better to fight them now with allies, even allies we don't trust, than fight them later alone. Daehyun made his decision. They would help. But on their terms. He arranged a meeting at Axis Prime, the same station where humanity had been rejected 20 years ago. But this time he didn't arrive as a supplicant. He arrived with a fleet of 50 warships as escort. He arrived as the leader of a power that could not be dismissed or ignored. The Concordat Council chambers looked the same 47 seats arranged in a circle. But the atmosphere was different. There was no arrogance now, only fear and desperation. The red-scaled Velkar spoke first. Humanity's presence here is unprecedented. This is a session for Concordat members only. Daehyun smiled coldly. You requested our help. I'm here to discuss terms. You can listen to those terms, or I can leave and you can face your crisis alone. The Velkar looked like he wanted to argue, but Dawn spoke up. Let him speak. We need solutions, not pride. Daehyun stepped to the center platform, the same platform where Minji had stood 20 years ago pleading for acceptance. Now he stood there with all the power. The Terran Dominion will assist in the defense against this threat. We will share our military technology and tactical expertise. We will commit our fleets to a combined defense, but in exchange we require the following. First, full recognition of Dominion sovereignty over all our current territory. No more claims that we're occupying Concordat space. Second, formal non-aggression treaties between the Dominion and all Concordat members, guaranteed for at least 50 years. Third, reparations paid to the families of the 12,000 humans killed during the forced evacuation 20 years ago. Fourth, a public acknowledgement from this council that humanity's exile was unjust and motivated by fear rather than legitimate concerns. And fifth, a permanent seat for humanity on this council as an equal partner. The chamber erupted in argument. Some council members objected. Others nodded in agreement. The Velkar representative stood and shouted, "These terms are outrageous. You're trying to profit from our crisis." Daehyun turned to face the Velkar directly. Your empire attacked our civilians during the evacuation. You launched an unprovoked assault on our territory 12 years ago, and now you object to paying compensation? Be grateful we're offering to help at all rather than watching your civilization burn. The debate continued for hours, but ultimately fear won over pride. The unknown fleet was too dangerous. The Concordat needed humanity's help more than it needed its dignity. The vote passed 31-16. Humanity's terms were accepted, but before the celebration could begin, the Velkar made one final desperate move. They gathered their remaining fleets and launched a surprise attack on Fortress Nova. If they couldn't stop humanity politically, they would try to destroy them militarily. It was a catastrophic mistake. Admiral Jisoo commanded the defense. The Velkar fleet, still recovering from their losses at Crimson Nebula, numbered 60 ships. They expected to overwhelm Fortress Nova's defenses before reinforcements could arrive. They didn't account for 20 years of human preparation. They didn't account for the asteroid field being filled with hidden weapons platforms. They didn't account for the spatial anomalies that Haeun could now deploy at will, and they didn't account for the fury of a species that had been pushed around for too long. Jisoo led the counterattack personally. Her flagship dove through the Velkar formation like a knife through cloth. Behind her came 3 full Dominion fleets plus allied forces from the Chirith and Vorith. The battle was brutal and one-sided. By the time it ended, the Velkar fleet was destroyed. Every single ship was either debris or captured. The Velkar Dominion's military power built over centuries was shattered in one afternoon. The message to the galaxy was clear. Attack the Terran Dominion at your own extinction. 3 weeks later, the Concordat Council met again.